What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Seal Let's Destroy podcast. We have an amazing guest speaker today. I've been following Jarrod on Instagram for a while now, and I really appreciate his recovery content. He is based out of Richmond, Virginia, and he has been clean and sober since August 16th, 2013. He just passed 9 years in recovery. That's amazing, dude. That
No,
is
thank you.
amazing. He is
Thank you.
also the host of the Redeem Yourself podcast. You can at Redeem Yourself podcast on Instagram, and his your personal account is at Strength and Time, right?
Yeah, that's it. You got it.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you came on the podcast. I'm super excited to hear your story. I've never heard your story. I want to hear your story, and I know everybody in the Sealed Lips Destroy audience wants to hear your story as well. Um, so however, this is your time, Jarrod, to
Okay.
share your story. However you want to share it. Um, the mic is yours.
Word. Well, first and foremost, Anna, thank you so much for having me on. Looking forward to sharing my story with the audience in hopes that if we can't reach everybody, we impact at least one person to make a change for the better.
Right.
Um, I can't say that my story is any different from, the next person going on this journey, right? Um, but I started in addiction probably around 13, 14, as I started to self-medicate from what I know now was depression and bipolar. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I just knew that, hey, alcohol made me feel a certain way, smoking weed made me feel a certain way, and doing cocaine made me feel a certain way. Um, so that's how I started pretty young. Um, Trying to even think. High school was almost like a blur. I was pretty good at sports, but I felt like a lack of love from my family and attention, which turned me to find that um, in the street, so to say. Like, so the friends that I was around, the my social circles, we were in the things that today, like, I'm not proud to say that I was around, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It made me the man I am today. It made me able to, reach back to people in those environments to try to help them out. Since I see them going down the wrong path. Around 17 is where, the partying and being out really, really started to take a hold on my life. And it's funny because when you're in those environments, it just looks like everybody's doing the same thing. It never dawned on me that there was a bigger world outside of this box I was living in of trying to maintain a job, just to party on the weekend, have enough to money to drink, smoke, do some blow, and hang out with my friends. Like that was it. There was never I'd say like a mentor that would come around and say, "Hey, man, there's a different way to live life. Like, let me show you." I didn't have that, and if I did, as I know now, like my life kind of had to go the way it was, the way it went, in order for me to be who I am. So I probably wouldn't have paid attention to them because
Mhm.
I was so stuck in that space that it just wouldn't have made sense. Um, and at 19, like I'm trying to paraphrase a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Because I could go through so many details and talk about so many moments, and we could drag this out for a couple of days, but I don't think anybody's gonna listen to me just talk for a couple of days. So at 19, I was introduced to cocaine. Um, and that's one of those moments that I've never forgotten because of what it did to my life, you know. Um, I was past drunk and it was like 2 3 in the morning, and I was at one of my friends' house. They invited me over to play poker, and I think that they invited me over just to take my money because I was gone. And I remember them whipping out this, this powdery substance, dumping it on the table, and I looked at it and was like, "Yo, what's that?" Like, "Oh man, you don't want this." Da da da. And I was drunk. You know what I'm saying? So thinking like, "Nah, bro, what is that? Let me get it." And that I tried it, and life was kind of off to the races. So as expensive as that habit got, pretty quickly, I decided to start selling it. Um, and that, I was probably, I like to think I was a cool dope boy, the money, the women, whatever. But my run as a drug dealer was like super short. I probably made it like 2.5 years because shortly after I turned 21, I was arrested. Um, a former like associate got in trouble, snitched on a bunch of us. I don't like even like that word, but they told on a bunch of us and ended up having to serve 10 months in jail. And that was kind of my first like, what the hell are you doing, man?
Mm,
Like there was this inner part of me that was like, this isn't you, the whole time. And if I go back a little bit, like I was raised in a church home, right? I don't go to church to now, mainly because I was kind of forced to growing up. But a lot of my morals, values, like who I am at its core is a person of love, right? A person that kind of abides by doing right by other people, um, being helpful and treating others how I want to be treated. You dig? So it was almost like I was running from who I was meant to be. So I remember like my second day in jail or my third day in jail, I was sitting on a coffee table and like watching TV, and it hadn't hit me yet. Like this was my life. And I was looking at the TV, and I don't know, it was like a wind came over me out of the blue. It was like, yo, this is your life every day for the next 10 months. And I looked around, and it's jail, so you can't cry. You can't break down. I remember going into my bunk and just praying, like, I don't know why I'm here and I don't know how I got this far off my path, but help me. Um, and even in saying that, I realized shortly after I got out in December, it was December 3rd of 2008. It was a lie, because I got out that morning at like 5:30, took a nap, and the very next night, my friends threw like a welcome home party for me. So it was right back to what landed me there, without selling drugs, but they were still around. Alcohol was in heavy, rotation. Weed was still blowing. So I didn't learn anything. I was still self medicating. And the crazy part is that part of my sentence, I wanted to come home early. So I took the easy route. They had a program called the Rise program. And I knew a couple people in there like, yo, go to this program. It'll knock some time off your sentence. So all I was thinking was like, shit, I'll go in there and listen to a couple meetings, like, and when I hear people describe what their experience was in like rehab, that's what it was. We had meetings all day, right? To pass the time, anger management, substance abuse meetings. And then people would come in and speak about AA. But I was paying no attention to it. The only thing on my mind was getting the fuck out of there, right? So I didn't deal with who I was as a person yet.
mm,
So I went right back to what landed me there. And shit, I came home still dealing with all of that and found out that my girlfriend was pregnant. So on top of my already, self-medicating my depression and bipolar, now I got a kid on the way. So it's like, man, what the hell do you do? I'm a felon, can't find a job, money's dry, we arguing. And I just continue to beat myself into submission with me seeing no way out. You know what I'm saying? Like I really in my mind was like, yo, this is my life. This shit is never gonna get better. Like I am who I am. I can't believe I fucked it up this bad, but this is who I am. Um, and then that was my day in. Like I could tell you more about it, but it's just that's what my life was. 3 years went by and she got pregnant with our second son, right? And that's where my life took uh my U-turn moment. Um Kind of the same emotions, like man, now I got two. I can't take care of one and now I got two. Like, yo, you're an idiot. Like, why do you keep making these mistakes, right? And I'll never forget, I called, well, we were arguing, right? And she was like, you can't take care of us, you can't do nothing for us. Like, why are you even around? Like, just shit you say when you're angry. And it hit me because she was right, like I'm nothing, you know? So she went out of town. She took our kids and went down to Florida to like visit her parents. And as an addict, sometimes the worst place to be is alone with your thoughts. And I remember
That's
sitting at my,
very true.
yeah,
And just the negative self-talk that you were describing, I can relate and resonate with that so much. Even
yeah.
5 years into recovery, I still have to check myself on a daily basis.
Oh man, we always do. But that's the beauty of
Mhm.
recovery in life. You know what I mean? Like we have the tools now to know, like, wait a minute, like that's not true.
Right.
Let me rethink that and put
Mhm.
something else in that space to get rid of that thought.
Yeah.
Then I didn't have those tools. So when I was alone with my thoughts, right, that can get dangerous.
Mhm.
So I called, my stick man up and I went and picked up an ounce of powder because that's like, man, shit is nothing else for me to do. Like, this is the only way I know how to make money. I'm gonna make money. Da, da, da. So I get it, but I'm an addict. So I
Mhm.
end up doing a little bit and then handing some off to somebody else to, go get the money, bring it back. And I was high and had like crazy epiphany. Like, oh no, I'm gonna go back to jail. They're gonna send me to prison. Like, what the hell? Like, nah, I can't do this. So I called him back and it was like, nah, bro, take this shit. Like, I can't do nothing with it. He was like, all right, cool, that's fine. So I got on the road a little later and had to meet my son's mother in South Carolina to pick up her and my sons. And on the way back, I was just a wreck, like in tears. For one, I was coming down off the high. Two, I was dealing with all the self guilt and negativity, like in the space that I was. Um, and about 2 days later, we argued, and I remember saying to her, you know what, I'm gonna go get help. I'm gonna go fix this. I'm gonna get right. I went, called every building around here, had no idea about therapy, but I thought I was ready. You know what I'm saying? So I found a therapist, went to him, sat down with him. He gave me all the tools that I needed. And he was like, man, just don't drink. Try it one day, don't drink. And I'm like, cool, no problem. The very next day, woke up and went drinking. You know, it just wasn't enough. Like I couldn't escape me in those thoughts and where I was. Like I just hated who I was as a person. So that day, I woke up, she left, and I was like, no, fuck it. We're gonna break up and I gotta do this. I'm gonna just go get hammered and not deal with my feelings, because that's what I did as an addict. My feelings. I just drown it out, forget about it. It's only gonna make it worse. But hell, I'm already in it. I might as well. So met up with a couple people, did a lot of day drinking, and it was like I was making my goodbyes. Like I went to so many different places, so many different people I hadn't seen in a while, and was just chilling, like talking to them. Then I'll go to the next spot for a little while, drink, talk, do whatever. And probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock that morning, I got dropped off because at that point I was done. At my parents' house where we were all living at the time. And and I get there and I get out of the car and get in the driveway, right? And I just start looking up at the sky, yelling, talking to God. It's like my U-turn moment, like what the hell is going on? You told me life wouldn't be like this. Why am I here? You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate this. I don't want to live no more. Like, take me. Like, if this is what my life has to be, just take me right now. I don't want to do this shit. I'm done. I'm done. I don't, you know what I'm saying? So I went inside my parents' house and started popping pills, just ready to go, just popping them shits. And then finally, at some point, as I was taking them, I must have passed out. So kind of like a lighter moment. I pass out. My mom and my son's mother come downstairs because they like hear the commotion, and they see me stretched out on the kitchen floor. So my mom, I can't imagine what she was going through in this moment. So I haven't talked to her about it, but I need to. She tapped her and was like, "Go check his pulse, make sure he's breathing." So my son's mom walks over to me. She's like, "Oh, he's snoring." You know what I'm saying? just going like passed out, yo. But that like it made me laugh when they told me that weeks later.
Mhm.
But the next day I woke up and was still angry at the world, yo. You know, like this, why the hell am I still here? This was not supposed to go this way. But my son said something that morning, my older son, and it hit me. He was like, I'm sorry, daddy, I don't love you. He was only 3. I don't know, he probably didn't mean it. You know what I'm saying? But those words, right? And I looked at him, I was like, man, what? He was like, I don't love you, daddy. You don't act the same. And I didn't know what he meant. I'm sorry. And
Don't be sorry, man. Like I'm trying to hold back the tears too.
nah, I got you. No
Because
matter.
I have a 10. It's weird to even say that, but my son's fixing to be 10. So
Shit, I got
yeah.
12-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old, so I get it. But he said that, and I broke down, you know. So my dad and my mother, they take me to the hospital, and I remember sitting in this office or like in the little room with the nurse, and they're asking me questions about recovery, not recovery, but addiction and what's my substance use and do I want to die right now and all that kind of shit. And just like I don't know what, man. I was just a wreck. And I heard this voice and I'll never forget it. I don't know, everybody can believe something different. Like for me, it was God. You know what I'm saying? Like smack me that moment, that light bulb and say, hey man, you got a second chance at life. Do what you gotta do. And that was it. And all of a sudden this like calm came over me that I have never felt. And I looked the nurse in her face and say, yo, I'm ready. Like, just take me upstairs. And I got up there, laid down, cried a lot, but it was my first time. I didn't have a phone. There was no computer access. So I had to deal with me, you know? So I was laughing by myself, crying by myself, and I was okay with it. Like I didn't try to fight it, like, man, I need to be here. Like this is it. Let's do this. So I stayed there like 3 days, the 72 hours. Came back and my son's mom was leaving. Like she was moving out, like rightfully so. We weren't a good match. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, it's all good. That generally would have broke me and
Mhm.
sent me right back to where I was. But I remember looking up at her and I was just that peaceful feeling that I was just kind of like, yo, it's all good. And went in my parents' guest room and just went back to sleep. And that was the moment that my life kind of turned around, you
I'm
know?
pretty sure that's called a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, that's the word I needed, a spiritual awakening. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I just never looked back that day, that moment, that voice, that feeling, those emotions, like they'll never leave. And now, if life gets a little difficult, a little hard, like I just always go back to that space. I pulled from that moment because when I was at my weakest, I was also my strongest. As that took a lot to even show up there. So I could have ran. It's what
Mhm.
I'm used to doing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It hits me. And no matter how many times I share that, yo, I always cry. I'm gonna
It's
get this down one.
so powerful. It's so powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh man. Yeah. And that's what started it. I went back to my therapist like the next day, had to talk to him. And he was like, so what have you been? I was like, man, I actually just got out the hospital. Like I drank right after you told me not to. And that guy saved my life, yo. He himself had like 40 years in recovery, and he was
Wow.
like the first person that I ever met that understood me. And he was just like, nah, man, I get it. Like, da da da. And he started giving me tips and things to do. And I listened to all of it. Um, but he really helped change the trajectory of my life. He helped me with job placement. I was actually able to hold down a job, was on time, excelling. And I got to take care of my kids, you know, because that was like a big reason why at first. You know what I'm saying? Like my one son was 3, my other little boy was a month old, and they're my best friends now. Like my older boy, like it's been some work trying to rebuild what I thought was lost. And now me and him are tight. So it's like he'll be 13 in November.
Gifts
And
of the gifts of recovery.
yeah, most definitely. And they just keep giving. And me and him had an interesting conversation the other night. I forget what was on TV, but it was something about partying and something. And I was like, man, it's so crazy how people, can just do that. He was like, yeah, it is. Like, there's so much more to do. But you used to be like that, Dad. And he let out a little laugh. And I was like, yeah, it's all good, man. I lived a good one, champ, but I'm happy
Mhm.
to be here with you. You know what I mean? But it was
Mhm.
cool to be that transparent in that moment to see, like, damn, he gets it. Like he sees who I am. As parents, it's like I beat myself up so much in addiction because y'all look up to me. The kids look up to me. But who am I? I don't want you to be like me. Like you can't do this. Like now it's like, all right, I am a good role model
Mhm.
for not only them, but their friends. I get to volunteer at the school now. I'm the cool dad. Like, it's so much joy and beauty come with it, man. Like I could just ramble and go on and on and on. But that's pretty much the gist of my story. I'm blessed and just happy to be here.
That was amazing. I'm so
Thank
glad that
you.
I heard your story. What would you say to someone that's listening right now, or maybe a family member that is struggling to help one of their loved ones that's struggling, that's still sick?
Mm,
What, like, a message to someone out there that um, is still sick and suffering, or maybe like a family member that's just like, what the hell do I do?
mm. What would I say? I think the first thing I would say is be patient. This isn't a 1 day thing. Um, the second is to keep showing love no matter how difficult it may be. That was, personally speaking, that was like a big problem of mine, like lack of love, lack of support, lack of trust, like all of those things that come with building bonds. Maybe
Mhm.
if I had somebody that showed love and interest in my life and my goals, my dreams, maybe shit wouldn't have went the way it did, but maybe it would have too. But I can only speak, 2020 hindsight, right? Um, so don't be afraid to ask for help, you know. There's so much support out here, and I'm sure there's a community of people who are in similar situations that will be able to, give some guidance. I thrive off of one of my, I want to say, mottos is that success leaves clues, right? So anything that you want to do in this life, whether it's helping somebody, like being that loved one of somebody that is struggling, business, there's somebody that's been successful at it. There's a book,
Mhm.
there's probably a podcast.
Mhm.
This day and age, right? Like there's help somewhere that you can go and get. Just don't be afraid. That stigma and that cloud around it. That's really why I started speaking out, was because I wonder how many people didn't know where to go get help.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Or how.
And I think another thing that um, people might think that there's like expectations, and
Right.
I want my listeners to know, and I think I can speak on behalf of Jarrod too, is there's people out there like us
Right.
that are here to help with no expectations in
Yeah.
return, for nothing in return, because we
Yeah.
want to help you and we want to help you find recovery.
I just like to see people win.
Right.
I could cry saying that. When someone messages me or calls me or texts me, whatever, and they tell me they had a win. If it's 24 hours, I'm hyped. You know what I'm saying? Like that is beautiful to me. Like
I
I would jump up
yep.
like I just won. Like, yo, that is sweet. Let's go.
I just got a message before we started this podcast in 3 days.
Right.
He's got 3 days, and I am so freaking proud of him.
Yo, amazing.
Yeah.
Because it always starts somewhere. Like thoughts are things. So if
Yeah.
you wake up one day and made that decision and you stick with it for a day, hey, you freaking won.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Let's add something to it the next day.
And then one day you'll wake up with 5 years or 9 years, and you're like, how the hell did that happen?
Oh, I swear. I swear. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember like looking up, it's like that Meek Mill song where they talk about levels,
Mhm.
right? Where I didn't even know what sobriety is or was. I was just like, yo, I'm just not gonna drink like the whole dry drunk thing. But I
Yeah.
was kind of just working on myself. So then I entered recovery. And then I heard my therapist say the 40 years, and I was like, damn, 40 years? Now it's like, well shit, I could get there.
Mhm.
I'm 9, 31 more to go, but we'll make it. You know what I'm saying? And it's always one day at a time because I can't get there without 24 hours.
Exactly.
That's it. That's it.
Well, Jarrod, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really, really, really appreciate you and what you do on Instagram. Are you on Facebook too?
Yeah, I'm on
Okay,
Facebook as well.
cool. Because my audience is primarily on Facebook.
Yo, that's so
Yeah,
cool that you was able to build it on there because
yeah,
Facebook is ruthless.
it
Like,
it kind
you
of
know what I'm
is.
saying? Like it's ruthless in the sense of like well for me and I haven't really like put that much energy into it because I've been focusing on like off
Mhm.
online platforms here recently. But I tried Facebook first, just trying to build and connect, and that shit was difficult. So kudos to you for
Thanks.
having that
Yeah,
community.
I think Sealed Lips Destroy is sitting at like 41K right now on Facebook.
Yo, that's a
So
lot of lives to impact. That's
yeah,
amazing. Keep
it
doing that.
is.
Yeah, nah, that's amazing.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. And any final words?
Outside, I appreciate you,
Okay.
for allowing me to speak with you and your audience. And, if you're in the struggle, you have a loved one in the struggle, just lead with love and tell them to keep going. It gets better.
Thank you. That's amazing.
Thank you.